Join Winnipeg Sports Talk, live from the NHL Draft in Nashville, presented by CoolBet, beginning on June 26th.
No surprise. I mean, what is driving conversations around bar tops and among sports fans in Winnipeg right now is what is going on with the Winnipeg Jets in this really unprecedented offseason in the 2.0 era. Steve Dangle is getting into the mix. I did not have on my bingo card yesterday that Steve Dangle would be tweeting with insider information on Blake Wheeler. But he did exactly that, saying that the buyout is on the table. And here's the Dangle tweet. I've heard Blake Wheeler's days in Winnipeg are numbered. Still a chance he moves, but most likely option is a buyout. And again, according to Cap Friendly, 8.25 cap hit would be $2.75 million for 2 seasons. I realize that many people will say, well, the Jets don't do that. They don't want to pay guys not to play for them. They've only done that once, and that was Mark Stewart early on. And listen, Mark Stewart was a beloved guy in the organization. If you're saying that they are too loyal and they would never do that, they did it to Mark Stewart. So I will remind people of that. But here's the thing, and this is why I was hesitant to go out on a limb and say 100% Blake Wheeler's not going to be back here when the team starts their season, because I think there was a chance that things just didn't work out and maybe the appetite to buy Blake Wheeler out and move on wasn't there in the organization. I've really come around to thinking that is all but done. How it gets done, we'll find out. And a big part of that, Remo, is what we've been hearing from Darren Dreger. Here's the tweet, Dregs, as has been the case since the buyout period opened. This is an option for the Winnipeg Jets and Blake Wheeler. There is some trade interest, so the Jets continue to work through the process. What tells me that tells me is that it is going to be one or the other. And it probably is the simplest and easiest way to go about it, just simply buying the player out. And if you're looking to do Blake Wheeler right, gives him the opportunity to sign wherever he wants, get a chance to win the cup if he thinks there's a good spot, and, takes care of him as well. A trade, obviously, a little bit more difficult, and the Jets certainly would have to, I would imagine, have to maintain or eat half of that cap hit at over $4 million, which is a little less than what they'd pay in a buyout. But is there a sweetener involved that the team doesn't want to give up? I'm not sure. All I know, Reem, is that Darren Dreger has been as plugged into Kevin Cheveldayoff as anyone. These guys don't just start throwing these things out to get clicks. They like being right. And Dregs, unprompted on a couple of occasions in the last week, has mentioned a buyout for Blake Wheeler, not even when asked about the Winnipeg Jets. So that tells me that there is a real possibility that that is the way it ends. But certainly when you hear them talking about a trade and a buyout, I think the writing is on the wall that this organization has realized up to the highest levels they do have to move on. And I think that is going to happen. And whether we find that out in the next week in a buyout period or potentially a trade in around the draft, I guess time will tell. They do have some days to make a decision on this until the 30th. But I can't imagine all of this smoke from people that are quite tied into the organization, especially Darren Dreger, would lead to all for nothing and Blake Wheeler being back next year.
Yeah, I wasn't so sure before. We played the clip last week of him on with Jay Onrait, and we casually threw a buyout speculation about Blake Wheeler. Wasn't really reporting anything, but he just said there's speculation. And then it was last week for me on Sekeres and Price, and we played the clip yesterday. They're like, hey, the buyout window opens. Do you think we'll see any news on anyone at all? And he brought up one player. He's like, I'm really interested to see what happens with the Winnipeg Jets and Blake Wheeler. And look, he tweeted this today. I mean, I read this tweet, as has been the case since the buyout period opened. This is an option for the Jets and Wheeler. There's some trade interest, so they continue to work through the process. I mean, this tweet doesn't say anything at all. It just says, he's a buyout candidate. The fact that he keeps putting this out there makes you think something is in the works.
Listen, I know there's a lot of you in chat that are impatient. I'll be with you with that impatience if we get to July 1st and this doesn't happen. But I think you're kind of wasting your time right now complaining about things that haven't happened yet, because it doesn't matter whether it happens today or tomorrow or the next day or 10 minutes before the first round starts next week in Nashville. Right now, it's about making the best deal for the Winnipeg Jets. And I think in some ways, especially as we've heard that, more teams might be getting into the mix for Pierre-Luc Dubois. That's a good thing for the Winnipeg Jets and Kevin Cheveldayoff. His job isn't to do something today. His job is to do the best job for the Winnipeg Jets and get the best return for these players that in some ways he's being forced to trade. And as I say, that's why it's going to be a fascinating week over the course of, leading into our shows in Nashville next week. Why don't we bring in this Hellebuyck clip yesterday, Ramon? This was something a lot of people were talking about. No doubt that Dubois is handling most of the attention and most of the noise right now because of the rumors and the reports that we've had. And this goes back to last summer and even beyond. But the Connor Hellebuyck story is right up there as well, certainly when it comes to his value in and around the league. And New Jersey had been a team that we had speculated before that, might be a spot that, could use a veteran elite goaltender to help them take that next step. Pierre LeBrun on Insider Trading yesterday talked about the Jersey Devils' interest in Hellebuyck, but what could be maybe a bit of a barrier to getting something done, and that, of course, is money.
Yeah, New Jersey Devils, one of the teams that we understand that Connor Hellebuyck would be interested in signing an extension with in a sign and trade. Now, they're not the only team, of course. And listen, New Jersey has investigated it. They've had a conversation with Winnipeg. But I think what probably gives New Jersey pause and some other teams is the kind of money that Hellebuyck would want in extension. We believe that to be in the Andrei Vasilevsky range, $9.5 million a year. And, we get why he's asking for it, perhaps. He's, again, a Vezina Trophy finalist. But I think for the Devils, does that work in their cap? So I think that price would have to come down, I think, for New Jersey to get more involved in this.
Well, activity around the Winnipeg Jets is definitely picking up this week, but I think the extension numbers that Pierre just talked about somewhat hampering, if not limiting, the market around Connor Hellebuyck.
All right, so there's the conversation with the guys. And, the Dubois sign and trade reported by The Athletic, great thing for the Winnipeg Jets when it comes to maximizing the value for Pierre-Luc Dubois. The Hellebuyck situation is a little different, and I know in that clip it was referred to as a sign and trade. But Connor Hellebuyck's got a year left on his deal. I mean, if he's traded before July 1st, that team has his rights. They've got him signed for next year. And as the team that has him, they can sign him to the 8-year extension. So the situation is a little different. It's important to point that out. But obviously, Remo, if teams are thinking about making a push and giving Kevin Cheveldayoff what he wants to get his Vezina Trophy winning goaltender out of Winnipeg, this team's going to want to have some level of confidence that Connor Hellebuyck's going to be more than a guy coming in for 1 year. And that is, I think, where Ray Petkow comes in, Connor Hellebuyck's agent, and conversations with those teams about what it will take to extend the Jets' Vezina Trophy winning goaltender.
Yeah, and, Dreger mentioned teams having pause because of the salary, and I think things working against Connor Hellebuyck is that he's going to be over 30 when he signs his next deal, and he's a goalie. We just saw Vegas go with Aiden Hill, at close about $2 million, and Lauren Brossois. Like, they played 6 goalies this year, and
2 weeks ago we were also talking about Bob basically single-handedly dragging his team to the Cup final.
That's true, but he was
$10 million.
But before that, we were talking about how that contract was so terrible, and he lost the starting job. And look, you look at the last 2 Cup winners: Vegas with Aiden Hill, Colorado with Darcy Kemper, who they just let go. I think teams are, I don't know if it's like running backs in football, where teams are like, yeah, maybe we can just plug any guy there. Now, Hellebuyck, he's been a Vezina finalist multiple times. He's up there. He's definitely worth the money. But if you're a team, and a lot of teams are so close to the top of the salary cap right now, how are you going to fit a $9 million goalie who's over 30? And
well, here's the good news. He's only making $6 million next year. And then on your extension, when it kicks in, that's when the salary cap goes up. And I know we can say, hey, Aiden Hill went on a heater and the Vegas Golden Knights won the Cup. Vegas won the Cup. Colorado won the Cup because they were the best teams. And they, top to bottom. Connor Hellebuyck makes an average team really good and a good team potentially great. He is as consistent and reliable as any goaltender in the National Hockey League, and he is an absolute workhorse. And listen, I know we're hearing about teams that are sort of going other ways and having a bit of a platoon with 2 guys. Listen, I'd far rather have a stone cold lock number one, a guy where the coach walks in and doesn't even have to think about the number that he's writing on the board, and that one can help you win games. And I think if you asked anyone here in Winnipeg watching the Jets over the last 6 years, they would say that that is going to be money well spent for Hellebuyck. And to be honest, I would feel better about an extension on a 30-year-old Hellebuyck than I would a 30 or 31-year-old Mark Scheifele, for instance, because I think that Hellebuyck has proven more than almost any of his peers how durable he is, and what he can do consistently for a team that, this has now stretched for 8 years. Let's get to Dubois, Remo, because Darren Dreger had a little bit on Dubois, and then from earlier today, a little speculation from Elliotte Friedman. But here's a quick little report on the latest on the Dubois drama from Darren Dreger.
As for Pierre-Luc Dubois, it's not just a two-horse race. It's not just the Montreal Canadiens and the Los Angeles Kings. There are other teams who are involved. We know the LA Kings have cap issues. The Montreal Canadiens have made it clear that, this isn't going to be extortion. They can wait, if necessary, for when Pierre-Luc Dubois becomes an unrestricted free agent in a year.
There's Dreger on that. And now, again, we all know how these things work. Dreger's got a good line to shovel day off. Getting the word out that there's many other teams that are sniffing around or interested in Dubois certainly is a good thing for the Winnipeg Jets. Maybe puts a bit of a squeeze on a team like Montreal to step up and up their offer if they're serious about getting Pierre-Luc Dubois. And Darren just did mention, the willingness just to wait and get him as an unrestricted free agent. Well, that doesn't happen if this sign and trade deal is completed. And that, I think, puts more pressure on Montreal to really step up or back out. And let's get to this clip from Elliotte Friedman from 32 Thoughts. I think something that many people are thinking about the Montreal Canadiens. I mean, listen, we know a lot of their fans would love to see a French star center come in. We know Pierre-Luc Dubois has a lot of assets that teams would love to have. But I think there is some thoughts and wondering whether the Montreal Canadiens are really that committed to trying to get Pierre-Luc Dubois at some point, or maybe they feel that they're better off going elsewhere.
Before I play the clip, Huss, I just want to say they did speculate that, look, if they want to do this deal, they could just do a doc for Dubois and it would have already been done. And then they got into, well, does Montreal really want to do this?
I think the biggest question that people have is, does Montreal really feel this is the right move for them? Engels wrote the other day that he's not convinced about that. And I think Montreal is still kind of deciding that. So we'll see.
Does this Dubois deal need to get done by the draft?
I don't know that it has to, but I really get the sense that, does Winnipeg really want this to drag?
No, that's why I'm asking. We always look for the pressure point moments. There's one right there, and everybody's together.
The thing is, for Winnipeg, Hellebuyck has a contract. Scheifele has a contract. Dubois does not. They didn't take him to arbitration. That says to me they want to sort this out. And if you're LA and you're trying to win the Pacific Division next year in a really tough division, don't you want to know?
Yes, you do. And that's why I ask if, the big moment here is going to come next Wednesday in Nashville.
All right, a little bit of Elliotte Friedman and Jeff Merrick from 32 Thoughts with a little bit of Men at Work in the background, if you noticed that.